Another year in the rear view. And if you tuned into our program at any point within those last 12 months, we're thankful for that you've been with us on this journey. The Fight Plug podcast is ready to soldier on into the unknown. That is the year of our Lord 2023. But before we do that, we wanted to bring you a special episode of reflection, an opportunity for us to look back through what the sport gave us in 2022 and acknowledge the special athletes and career-defining performances that happened inside the mixed martial arts cage. After that, we can move on to what 2023 has in store for us and even make some predictions. But before any of that, I'd like to officially announce that this is our
Fight Plug Podcast 2022 Year-End Award Show.
Brandon, you've taken a peek at the categories and the stuff that I sent you. I'll let you pick which award are we announcing first, or are we talking about first? Where do we start?
I want to do the Milk Box Award first, because we talked about that, and I thought that was such an interesting, angle, something that I don't really see in any type of creators. I think that would be unique to us almost, right?
I think so. I haven't heard anybody else mention it, and it's a weird thing to give an award out for, but I guess it's an excuse to talk about these fighters specifically. So 2022 male and female Milk Box Fighters of the Year, and what that means is these are fighters who are...
It was Phil Baroni, but we can't... we were... guys in a little bit of hot water right now, so...
Milk Box Fighters, that means that these are fighters who are known commodities. They are not retired, but they did not compete in the year 2022. We don't really have nominees. For the other... categories, we'll have nominees, but this one, it was very obvious who we're giving it to. We're doing one male, one female. I think the most notable male fighter to not compete in 2022, Jon Bones Jones, is our recipient of the first ever Milk Box Fighter Award. And the female Milk Box Fighter of the Year, Tatiana Suarez, who's now on they've both been out of action for about...
It's 2019, right? That's the last time I seen Tatiana fight.
Yeah, it was 2019, so about 3 years for her. For Jones, has it been... He fought in 2020, right?
I think so. His last fight was it was Reyes, right? Was his last fight?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was early 2020. I'm almost positive.
Yeah. February 2020.
Click on it, because I made it a link. So, yes, those are our Milk Box Fighters of the Year. I don't doubt that both of them are going to fight. Tatiana Suarez has said that she'll be fighting in February. I think that's right around the corner, and she doesn't have an
You'll know more than I do, and this is why I wanted to bring this up first, because I always defer to you for WMMA. Mm-hmm. Why is it that she hasn't fought so much? Because we all know why Jon isn't. He's wanted to take cycles of steroids in order to get bigger. Mm-hmm. And so why is Tatiana hasn't fought?
Tatiana, she sustained a pretty bad neck injury in her fight with Nina Nunes back in 2019. And she had a hell of a time getting past it, because I think she injured it late in the second round. So in the third round, Nina Nunes was really starting to piece her up.
Cranking on it,
Yeah, so she had a really, really, really tough neck injury. And then, while she was rehabbing that and recovering for that, and close to her return, which she was going to fight Roxanne Modafferi last year. And by last year, I mean technically 2021, not actually 2022. Then she went and tore every ligament in one of her knees. I think it was her left knee. She tore her ACL or MCL, just all bad. So she had to have surgery for that, and that kept her out longer. So there's a lot of question marks surrounding Tatiana and how she's going to look, because she's primarily a wrestler. Not primarily, she is almost exclusively a wrestler. And with neck injuries and knee injuries, those are things that will directly...
Yeah, because she's a goddamn fucking devil in there. So that is super unfortunate.
Yep. But looking forward to her being back next month, as early as next month.
Yeah.
So I hope they announce that opponent very, very soon. And then Jon, well, we know, we're still waiting to hear what he's going to be doing at the top of the heavyweight division. At this point, I just want to see him fight any heavyweight. Just get him in the cage. Let's do this.
All right, man. So why don't you choose the next one, bro?
All right, all right, all right. Let's get on to the exciting stuff. Let's just go straight to knockout of the year.
Okay.
Do you want to announce the nominees? I don't know if you have the list.
Yeah, I have it up here.
All right.
Okay. This one doesn't win, so that's kind of messed up that I just said that. I probably shouldn't have said that, but
Yeah.
it's the one that's my favorite, which was Azamat Murzakhанов's flying knee. Um, that was such an amazing fight. That was so crazy the way that came out too. The way that like in the scheme of the fight, I went back to watch that fight again, and like the way it happened was just fucking damn. Um, we have Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, his flying knee of Adriano Moraes, which was really good to put that on the list because it's not a UFC centric uh, nominee, so it's not completely dominated, and that was a really good one. Molly Meatball McCann, who everybody fucking hates, and I hate her too. Yeah, she did have some pretty sick spinning elbows though.
Yeah.
Walk off elbows, which is fucking really sick. You had Leon Edwards, his head kick of Kamaru Usman, and Michael Chandler's front kick of Tony Ferguson. And we had Natalia Silva, a gorgeous spinning back kick of Teresa Bleda. So, do you want to announce the winner of that, or?
And the winner of our first ever KO of the Year award goes to.
We know it's not going to be Azamat Murzakanov, even though it should be.
Spoiled it. Goes to Leon Edwards for his shocking, picture perfect, Phoenix rising from the ashes,
amazing,
come from behind, head kick KO of Kamaru Usman.
I think the context of that kick is what really, because it wasn't on that list. It was probably the least cool looking kick.
Yes.
Or the least cool looking knockout. I think like how fucking smooth Mighty Mouse's knee was, just to be like, look at that. Because everything he does is fucking like art, especially like with that flying arm bar and all that shit. The way he fucking just put his hands up like, oh, you're fucking gone. Bye. That was fucking sick. I mean, shit. Molly McCann spinning back fist, just fucking the way it was just a walk off like that, just like you're dead. That was fucking sick. But I think just the context of Leon Edwards, where it was he's not looking his corner in the eyes, his corner's fucking yelling at him. I don't like Kamaru fucking Usman at all. Just all of that shit, just going into it, and then the fact that he set it up, the way he set it up. It was just crazy. I think that more so the context of that was what really won it for him, in my opinion.
Could not agree more. Because, like you mentioned, if we're going by just optics, there are way more brutal knockouts on this list.
That aren't even on the list, actually. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, absolutely. And I forgot, I did kind of want to lay out a little bit of like what our criteria was when we were kind of deciding knockout of the year.
Sure. And
I would say that award, it includes, but is not limited to, style, brutality, and circumstances specifically. That's not to say that we're not, considering things like aesthetics and entertainment value and stuff, but if there are stakes involved in the fight, and to
context is huge in something like a knockout, especially for everything. Because that was his career. He loses that fight to Kamaru the way he was losing it.
That's it.
That's it, dude. Yeah. You're Jared Cannonier.
Yeah, like, it took you long enough to get the first one, and then a title fight that culminates in. I'm not going to call it a boring decision. I feel like that's pretty harsh because fucking Kamaru Usman's a tough customer,
Yeah.
But it's nobody would have been clamoring for Leon Edwards to run that back with him.
He would have been fighting Masvidal. He actually probably would have ended up fighting Masvidal.
Yeah, and Leon Edwards really is going to be sharing this award with his coaches and his corner.
Yes, he has
because
to.
They frame this whole like sequence so beautifully. It's the only knockout on this list where when I think about like some of the things that his corner were saying to him, like it literally they could like make me emotional. Like it's why
it's big. this is going to sound very bitch, but um, I remember I like in the gym. I listened to like, you know, podcasts, or I'll listen to like breakdowns or interviews from MMA, all kinds of sports. And then like as I gets heavier, lifting heavier, I will play certain types of music. And like I just was down, dude. I was like down. And I don't know what it was. And I just go, you know what? Fuck that. And I put on his corner, and it was like every round they're like, don't let him fucking bully you. Don't let him fucking bully you. And I was just like, dude,
you gotta stop feeling sorry for your fucking self.
Yeah. And then they were like, cutting in for Dean Thomas, where he's like, he's not looking at him in the eyes, guys. Like when this corner's looking at him, he's embarrassed. That man's embarrassed in there. And then it was just like, shit, dude, that shit. And then,
an honorable mention to Jon Anik too, for delivering the perfect line right before it happens. Like DC and Rogan were just finished talking about how Edwards was he wasn't looking his corner in the eyes, like also like Dean Thomas was, saying that he's broken. You know, there's nothing left and everything. And then right as they finish saying that, Jon Anik he goes, but that is not the cloth from which he is cut. And boom, Leon Edwards lands that. He just puts in an exclamation mark on the end of that statement. It was
I'll always remember that too, because I was like watching it was going, and like I had just done a bunch of shit, and I was like, fuck, I gotta take out that trash. I gotta take out the trash. It was like in my head, and I was like, all right, I'll come back and listen to Buffer get, and then I'm like walking back, and then my girl's like, are we done with this? Or we're like, well, I want to see the post fight. And then boom, fucking guy gets fucking kicked the fuck down. And I was like, dang, dude, that was amazing.
Deaded, staring up at the lights. So yeah, congratulations, Leon Rocky Edwards. We do expect you to post a video thanking us for the award.
Yeah.
Second category, or third category, actually. Submission of the year. Pretty much the same criteria as KO of the year. We're going for not only style and optics and difficulty, brutality, things like that. So these are the nominees for Submission of the Year 2022. Our first nominee, the Prince of Peru, Claudio Puelles, for his knee bar submission of Clay Guida. Our second nominee, Jessica Batistaca Andrade, for her standing arm triangle submission of Amanda Lemos. Our third nominee, Erin Cold-Blooded Blanchfield, for her Kimura submission of Molly McCann, which was the only Kimura submission in the UFC all of last year, which was a kind of a surprise to me. It's like,
for as much as they bring that up, you got the Kimura, watch for the Kimura. They bring that up a lot.
No one ever hits the Kimura,
but no one ever hits it. It feels like it, because you see like the progression of grappling when it gets to the ground, where it's like, okay, they got a Kimura here. Well, watch out, they got the arm bar, like, because they kind of just move from limb to limb to limb, like through the guard, side guard, once they pass. And they were like, watch out for the Kimura there, but it never happened.
It's a transitional threat.
Yeah, for as much as they bring it up, you never really see it. So that's a very interesting portion that you just brought up right there.
Our fourth nominee, Jiri Prochazka. Jiri Prochazka in his rear naked choke of Glover Teixeira in their title fight. The fifth nominee, Oliver Enkamp, and his buggy choke of Mark
Another
Lemminger.
Sick one. That was sick.
Very, very cool. And that one's all style points for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen a buggy. I did see that, but I don't know if I'd ever seen a buggy choke before. We probably won't see another one.
And our final nominee, Magnum Weili Zhang, and her crucifix rear naked choke of Carla Esparza.
The fact that you've even put Weili Zhang on the list at all, on any list here, is very admirable, and it shows growth on your end. I like that.
It shows growth. Why?
We all know why he stopped.
Oh, that's okay. I don't hold ill will to Weili Zhang for beating Joanna. Only Rose can eat it.
Rose, yeah. Okay, good point.
Because Rose ruined the perfection. Now it's like, the first cut is the deepest,
Yeah.
Anyways, the winner of our 2022 Submission of the Year is Jessica Andrade.
Yes.
Not only is this a first for our Submission of the Year Not only is this a first for our award show, but that standing arm triangle was also a first of its kind in the UFC period. Like I mentioned that that Kimura from Aaron Blanchfield was the only one of the year, but to my surprise, nobody ever hit a standing arm triangle in the UFC before. What set this submission apart from the rest for you specifically, Brandon?
For me, it was just the bullying aspect of that, because it wasn't the most like technically, like when you talk about Blanchfield's Kimura, or you talk about the buggy choke, or you talk about the knee bar that Puelles put on, the art behind a lot of that goes into that, or even the context of the Jiri choke against Glover, where it's like Glover's one of the best BJJ practitioners in MMA history, and he did that to him. So it's like, whoa, that's cool. This was style points on a crazy level, just like, because Lemos isn't even that bad of a fighter, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
she's probably the next title challenger at strawweight.
Yeah, so to just fucking like pat her on the head and okay, good night, good night. For the way it was, the way I remember feeling it in my chest, like, oh, because like we've all been on like a schoolyard, and you watch a fight, and then you're like, that person should not have done or been in the room with that other person, and to make someone like Lemos look like that on that big of a stage with just the pure strength and like brute force against another human being was just wild disrespectful. It was scary just from a human aspect, where it's like, I think I brought this up before, where you see it in nature and you just know it's scary. Like when an animal is doing something to another animal, or you just like, it just doesn't look right. I shouldn't be watching that. That's what that was for me. Like that crazy primal feeling of seeing that was insane.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I feel like, and I almost kind of feel like this selection may have surprised people, because this is tough competition in this category also for this year. Yeah,
and we had just talked about context. So like, if we go off of context, the Jiri's was probably like would have to be, but this was how good that fucking choke was to me. Yeah. If you just like what, because at the end of the day, it's a cage fight.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad that you mentioned the Jiri rear naked choke, because I do kind of feel like we need to defend this pick a little bit, because it just needs some explanation. Because a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people handing sub of the year to Jiri Prochazka, without giving it a second thought. And while that bout was legendary, the choke wasn't why that performance was special. Like nobody is rewatching. Nobody's going to rewatch Glover and Jiri and just fast forward to the choke. Like that's not what that fight was about. In fact, if we're talking optics, like the Jiri choke is pretty underwhelming. He didn't even have his hooks.
It was just kind of like, it was kind of like a fine, fine kind of choke.
Yeah, I think the bigger reason that it gets the nod is because if anybody would have predicted that fight to end by submission, it was going to be by Glover. Everybody was picking Glover to finish that fight by submission. So while it's not at all what anybody was expecting, like Jiri being able to lock in an RNC, I think had less to do with the technique that he used and much more to do with like the accumulation of damage and the fact that Glover had nothing left. I mean, at that point, he very likely could have finished Glover with anything. It was I lost Brandon, and you're back.
No, you didn't.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, you heard everything then.
No, I didn't.
Okay. That's all good. Well, I was just kind of like giving context and talking about why I didn't give it to Jiri, because I thought the actual this is one where if we're talking about the spectrum, it's all circumstance and not style, versus some of the other instances like our decision to go with Jessica Andrade to kind of give some to kind of frame like what that meant for the strawweight division. Like Jessica Andrade had just came back down from flyweight. She had challenged Valentina Shevchenko and came up short, but she went 2-3 in flyweight and just decided, okay, I'll come back down to strawweight and do the thing here. And she went in and took on like one of the hottest prospects in the division at that time, and Amanda Lemos, and she just stepped on her. Like I came out of that fight thinking like, okay, maybe Amanda Lemos isn't that good. Like maybe she's kind of a one-trick pony.
And it was also on the heels of just picking up Rose and like throwing her on her head. Just like, here you go. Like that's it. It's like that's kind of crazy. I think that's just crazy. When people can do that, it kind of it shouldn't, but it can kind of like surpass technique. It can surpass the moment of things. It can surpass everything and just be like a straight primal. Like just go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Just whoever, if you're listening to it right now, stop this, go and watch it, and then like it's just striking as hell.
Yeah, and then to credit Amanda Lemos, she recovered nicely, and this was still at the beginning of 2022, and she went on to get wins over Michelle Waterson Gomez and Marina Rodriguez, who had all but earned a title shot at that point, and now she's pretty much the unofficial number one contender at strawweight. So I think it's interesting, man, because if she ends up getting that fight with Zhang Weili, Jessica Andrade is now, and I think what's even more gangster about it is Andrade is like, okay, cool, I went and snuffed out like one of the hottest prospects at strawweight. I think I'm just gonna go back up to flyweight and fight Lauren Murphy for no fucking reason. So she's a scary presence in any division that she's competing in. And then I know a lot of people are kind of probably thinking like, okay, what about Zhang Weili and Carla Esparza, a submission that had stakes and it had style, because a crucifix rear naked choke like that was certainly a first in the UFC. Also,
I just don't have any respect for Carla Esparza.
Yeah. I think there's a reason why me and you and a lot of people were saying going into that fight that Weili Zhang should be able to win by whatever she wants.
That was like an open workout. That was the same thing as like Nate Diaz getting high and like doing some spinning shit to his brother. Mm-hmm. Same thing.
Yeah, and all the credit in the world for Carla, to Carla for climbing back up the hill and becoming probably the most unlikely two-time champion in the entire organization. Yeah. But there was no point in either of her title reigns where anybody truly believed that Carla Esparza was the best strawweight in the world. And that sounds very fucking harsh to say, but I think it's true.
Yeah, no, not at all. Mm-hmm. Just a kind of a placeholder almost.
Yeah, so congratulations, Jessica Andrade. All right, you pick the next category, and we'll keep on going down this list, dude.
Okay, let's do this. I think breakout male fighter of the year is, let's do breakout male, breakout female. How about that?
There's so much to this one, to male specifically. Yeah. I just could not stop adding guys.
So many guys. Yeah, I did the same thing. And I kind of had like a running list in my head of just like, okay, go back and watch some of these fights, maybe read a little bit of it. Even like some of like the pre-fight interviews, the pre-fight press conferences, just to like get the context back for some of their bigger fights of the year. And it just did not stop. I was like, ooh. So we got Sergey Pavlovich, Ilya Topuria, Alex Pereira, Roman, the Pipe God, Dolidze, RoboCop, Greg Rodriguez. My favorite on this list, and we did not talk about it, and this is why we are friends, and this is why we do this. Jailton Almeida is amazing, and like I forgot, no one wants to fight this guy. Amazing fighter. I think we're going to be talking. Yeah, we're going to be talking about this guy for a very long time.
Yeah, 3 first-round finishes at heavyweight. 2022 alone.
Yeah, Fight Plug Ball Wash. He's been through the Ball Wash line. Jack Della Magdalena, Dricus, Still Knox Duplessis, and another man. Hey, dude. Rounding off this list with Caio Borralho, we are just buddies, dude. With Caio Borralho, man, and I think he hasn't been, but like to do what he does to the Dagestanis, because I don't think a lot of people would even realize that he's fought some motherfuckers for just to come in, and what he did to some Dags along the way is fucking admirable.
Muradov, and Gadzi Omar Gardzayev, who was 13.
And they were straight. Dude. And like I guess I think one thing before, it used to be like, oh, he was a All-American champ, wrestler, or he was an Olympic wrestler. Now it's like you're master of sport in combat sambo. That's like the big thing now that like a lot of guys get, and like he fucking took some of those motherfuckers down, which is very hard to do. Okay, so that's just a quick ball wash because he didn't win. The winner is Alex Poatan Pereira for good reason. Um, man, I think the main, and what was super funny is he's probably the only one on this where I think all of these guys, if we break down their fights, we would just ball wash the shit out of them up until the fight goes in.
Yeah.
I think up until his second to last fight again, I think we both took Strickland, no, to beat him.
I don't remember what we officially picked, but we were both in agreement that it was Sean Strickland's fight to lose. Yeah.
I do distinctly remember saying like, but he does have the thing that will make you look fucking stupid for the rest of your life. Just ask the champ, who, you know, we did break that, and then he did end up making fucking Strickland look stupid, and no one ever wants. I don't. No one wants to see Sean Strickland fight again. I mean, who cares? Who really cares?
Yeah, it was a tough go with Jared Cannonier a few weeks ago.
Yeah. As sick as and as much as I've hated on Israel Adesanya, like how crazy of a fucking hater that Pereira is to like follow him and beat him, it made me like feel bad for Adesanya almost.
Can't fucking shake this guy, dude.
Yeah, he flipped it to where I'm like, dang, Adesanya is badass. Like, that's pretty crazy, dude. This guy's just fucking wild, dude. But I think that's a very good pick.
And I think this is one that we hadn't really. I mean, we didn't have a lot of time to put our heads together to make a pick, and I think we both settled on Alex Pereira because, and I didn't explain. We didn't explain the criteria for breakout fighters of the year, and really it's just fighters who really made their mark this year, had a lot of success, obviously, hopefully won all or most of their fights in this calendar year, and kind of made the splash, whereas in the previous year they went from relative unknown to known. And I think most of these guys fit the bill to varying degrees, but I think what's almost ironic, and not to shit on our own pick here, because it had to be Pereira, because the man went from being unknown to taking the title and being middleweight champion.
Yeah. So now everybody likes talking about him now. I mean, you can't fucking not talk about the guy.
Yeah. And in truth, I mean, last year, I've been aware of Alex Pereira as the guy who knocked out Israel Adesanya in kickboxing, but this time last year, I don't think I could have picked him out of a lineup. If you would have just put a bunch of Brazilian guys, lined them up, and said, okay, which one of these is Alex Pereira who knocked out Israel Adesanya?
Yeah. Well, shit, dude, we've been watching his sister fight. We're like, dude, look at her.
Right. So, and for him to go from that to being our middleweight champion right now, I think it was hard to not give him breakout fighter of the year. And I think it's also funny was because all these other guys on the list, if they were the same size as him, and if you made them fight Alex Pereira, I would pick almost all of them over Alex Pereira.
Yeah, and the one on this list, I like Rogelio. I think he'll be a contender. I think, and this could probably end up sounding dumb, but I think Jailton Almeida could end up like, there's just something crazy about him to me, and I think it's what the UFC needs is a heavyweight fighter like him, because damn, dude, there's just this weird feeling about, like, I had the same type of feeling about Prochazka and I think we even mentioned it in one of our early about Yuri, like how amazing he is, and we've talked about Jailton, like, but just we can't because nobody wants to fucking fight him. So that's one guy I definitely like, man, I'm excited about. And Della Magdalena is just fucking so clean. There's just really nobody cleaner, and he's fighting Randy Brown, right? Rowdy Randy Brown in they just signed that.
Yes, he'll be fighting him.
Round out.
in February, on February 11th at 284 on that Makhachev versus Volkanovski
Yeah,
card.
so that's his. Yeah,
I think
so he's amazing.
If we didn't have Alex Pereira on this list, or if he had lost to Israel Adesanya,
Yeah.
I think I would have gone with Jack Della Maddalena.
Oh yeah.
Although I don't know that he's necessarily like made as much of like I don't know if he's covered as much ground towards title contendership as some other guys on the list. Like if you look at heavyweight, Sergey Pavlovich, he's literally ranked number 4 in heavyweight right now. So he's in the mix now. But we all know, the heavyweights, it's a shallower division. It's easier to work your way up the ranks of heavyweight. And heavyweight fighters, when they fall off hard. So we saw him put away the likes of Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, and while those have been marquee names in that division for excitement, it's sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail, and
You're right.
I think
Good point.
you go back and forth a lot if you're fighting in that heavyweight division, man.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why I didn't ball wash Pavlovich as much is just like he just seems like that stalwart, like he's just there already. Where a lot, and at least for guys like me and you who would consider me, I feel like he's there already.
Also, I feel like Sergey Pavlovich could easily just become the next version of Derek Lewis or Tai Tuivasa. Like he's that exact prototype, and 2-3 years from now, we could be talking about how the next guy just put the finishing touches on him and made him look irrelevant. So.
Yep. Nope. Good point, man.
Great point.
So we go to our breakout female fighter of the year. What?
Oh, you didn't hear me. I was like, great point. No.
Yeah.
Breakout female fighter of the year. Yeah, go ahead and read them off. There's only 4 for this one. Honestly, there just weren't too many girls who I thought fit the bill for this category. But sorry, go on.
Sure. Well, can I add? I'll add one at the end.
Okay.
Just because you made such a beautiful list here, so I don't want to shit on. This is amazing, dude. And just to everybody listening, Efrain just made an amazing list here with links to their typology. Just amazing. This guy does, and so award of the year for content creator and producer goes to Efrain for all the hard work that he puts in. You see the still for the graphic design, the still shots, the editing, the amazing work that this guy does. He gets my vote for content creator of the year. So,
thanks, Brandon. It means
put it in the comments. Yeah,
and we get to do this through the glory of technology. You don't even have to smell my Famunda cheese.
Yeah.
At the very very beginning, the plan was to do this in person. Could you imagine if we were literally meeting every fucking week to record a 2-3 hour podcast, dude? Wow,
dude, damn, that'd be crazy.
Anyways,
you probably would have socked me up. We probably would have had a Dana and our Dana White situation, just fighting at Mezcal, just me and you just fucking boxing it out on New Year's.
Butt crack all over the place.
Yeah, oh, dude, that's a lot of crack and hair flying, dude. I'll tell you that right now. All right, so we got breakout female fighter of the year, Yasmin Wadaki. See how easy that is to say her name, Yasmin Wadaki. All right, Erin Cold-Blooded Blanchfield, Natalia Silva, Vanessa Little Monster Demopoulos, and my personal favorite, not a UFC fighter, Stamp Fairtex out of One Championship.
Ooh, nice
God
addition.
damn, this young lady is fucking insane, dude. And when I say young lady, she is very young and fucking mean as fuck. Anybody here that just go, you can go on YouTube does a really good job, or One does a really good job of fucking promoting her. So, and then her Stamp, like Fairtex, you may hear like that's a brand, that's an MMA brand. And I think it was something that you had mentioned where we had talked about like Superlick, like the guy has a 9 in his last name.
Mm-hmm.
The Thai fighters, they take their last name as the gym that they're in. So she comes from the Fairtex gym. So there's like 3 or 4 fighters in One who have the last name Fairtex. So they just take that as their last name.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, that like Fairtex, like, is she related to the guy that makes the gloves? No, she fights for the Fairtex gym.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I made that point. But
No,
just like,
it's interesting because you if anybody's been in around combat sports, and I mean literally just if you go to a gym, then you
yeah, you'll
train
see
a little bit
Fairtex.
of striking, whatever, you'll
Yeah,
see Fairtex gear. So it could be easy
yeah,
to look at that. I mean, I thought that when I first saw it, I was like, Fairtex? Is she like a granddaughter of like Fairtex or
yeah,
something? Yeah.
yeah. Is she related to Jeff Fairtex? Is that no?
Yeah,
Yeah,
her given name, according to Tapology, is Nong Stamp.
yeah, dude, she is fucking evil. She is fucking evil. Okay, but the winner, and I think very well, like, far and away on this list, goes to Erin Blanchfield, who, I mean, just insane. Some of her, like, her technique and just her demeanor in there when she's fighting is something. It's something that really, like, you can't take your eyes off of when you watch her fight. It's definitely an eye test, fucking winner,
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure. Even in WMMA, where, we both go back and forth as far as, like, not trying to, like, tiptoe around it, like,
Whether or
the
not they should have rights and stuff like
yeah.
that.
No, meaning, like, the disparity, because we've talked about, like, almost being a different sport, like, just being so young.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not good fighters. It's just like the UFC was, like, male fighters, I feel like, were in this back in, the BJ Penn days or the GSP days, where the disparity, but if you could wrestle and box, you just beat the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so I feel like WMA, because it's such a young sport, it's not that it's not they're not any more talented, or I think it's just such a young sport that it takes a while to fill out those rosters. And when you see her, she looks just like, like, you could do, like, like those Instagram accounts where they're like, choose the knockout, and it's like the silhouette, who's the fighter, and it's just the silhouette. So it's like Connor's left hand, or, when you see her silhouette, if you didn't have the hair, or, if you couldn't tell the gender if you just watched her silhouette. To me, just as good. That's the way I feel when I see her fight. It's just like, dang, dude, she is just a total package.
She closes the gap. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, like we mentioned a bit ago, like when we were talking about the Dana White stuff, or the Jake Paul stuff, and how fighters are, in mixed martial arts, since there's not as much money in it, they're chasing legacy. And,
right.
And if you want to cement your legacy, the UFC is the place to do it. That wasn't an option for women for a long time.
Right.
Like, they've only been fighting in the UFC. There's only been WMMA in the UFC since 2014. So, it's going to take some time for younger girls, for younger would-be athletes to see that. I was like, oh, I can do that, and there's actually a place for me to do it. Whereas before, it's like, well, if you want to be a female in mixed martial arts, like, you got to get comfortable with the second and third rate promotions. It's going to keep getting better. But yeah, to your point, Erin Blanchfield, man, and I'm not going to pretend that she's someone who was on my radar before she came to the UFC, because, like you said, it's an eye test thing. Like, we're not there's so much fucking MMA on all the time. A lot of times I get very interested when I hear about a fighter making their debut, and that's when I'll go and kind of, like, look into their background and kind of see, what kind of trail they might potentially blaze. And for this specific category, I think she's also helped by the fact that she got that Molly McCann fight. They really set her up for success, because she could have done the exact same thing to, a myriad of other girls in this flyweight division, and it wasn't going to make the same kind of impact, or it wasn't going to show up on a lot of people's radar quite the same way, because Molly McCann, basically the female Patty Pimblett, had already, like, made such a mark on WMMA, especially 'cause she had, an amazing year also until she ran into Erin Blanchfield. So, and I think they knew what they were doing there. They set her up against Molly McCann in New York, which is Erin Blanchfield's backyard. And she, and it's one thing to be given the opportunity. And it's another thing to exploit it and actually take advantage of it. And she set herself up really well, because now next year in a few months, she's going to be fighting Tayla Santos. And it's crazy because now if she does something similar to Taila Santos, this girl's going to be fighting Valentina Shevchenko this year.
Right away. Yeah, this year.
And I'm still saying next year, but we're already in 2023, which is nuts. You know, I would like for her to get some more experience, but I'm also intrigued by how game she is and how she's not worried about that at all. And we've seen other would-be contenders kind of turn down the challenge. You know, Alexa Grasso, you know, she had her spot. She was up next, and she just didn't say the champion's name. So, you know, we'll see where that goes. But I think she's made the most strides towards becoming, I mean, as close as you can get to a household name, but I don't think that's the right term to use here. But yeah, if you're a WMMA fan, you've certainly taken notice of Erin Blanchfield this year. So,
oh yeah, and the one thing that I'll say about it too is if she can do that I think she can do that to Taila Santos. I think she will. I really do. I think it's just not a if, but when she fights for the title I think she will fight for it this year.
I think I've been kind of, I don't know. I don't want to like assume or like shoot for the moon too much with her, but I think she can too. I totally do. Like I was gonna, you know, wait till we get closer to that fight to say it, but I think Taila Santos has great jiu-jitsu, but I think that Erin Blanchfield marries wrestling and jiu-jitsu so much better.
Yeah,
and she's just such an offensive jiu-jitsu fighter too. Like I think if you get Erin Blanchfield in some of the same positions that Taila Santos had Valentina Shevchenko, having her back, almost like threatening with the rear naked choke, I honestly think that I think Shevchenko would be in more trouble with Erin Blanchfield on her back because of her offensive submission game.
Right.
I'm not going to say the same thing for the stand-up. I think Blanchfield's going to have a lot more trouble in the stand-up than Taila Santos did. But yeah, good point, though. I'm glad you brought that up.
No, and I think by this time next year, Yasmin Lucindo will be on this list for sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yep. All right, man. What's the next one you want to go to?
Let's see. Since we're talking WMMA, let's go to most improved female fighter.
Yeah.
And we'll round it off with most improved male fighter, and then we'll move on to another type of category. All right. So I compiled this list. I don't know if you can hear me. You're frozen a little bit, but
hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Most improved female fighter. So women who had a rocky 2021. And then went and turned it around and saw great success. This is a kind of a short list. There's a lot of girls who got a string of wins, but also have a loss in 2022. So I kept the list short. And the nominees are Angela Overkill Hill, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Miranda Fear the Maverick. And I gave the nod to Angela Hill, who I think it's going to be, I think I how should I explain this? You can tell I didn't actually have time to write notes for this one.
No.
I gave it to Hill because of the competition that she faced, and she does have that loss back in May to Virna Jandiroba, which was a close decision, which I know I always talk about how I think she gets, well, I think she actually won that fight.
I do too.
I was more impressed by the fact that she beat Lupi Godinez and Emily Ducote, because if you would have asked me before the fight with Lupi, you know, what I thought about Lupi or how I thought she was going to factor into the strawweight division, I would have told you that I think Lupi would have eventually be a mainstay in the top 10.
Mm-hmm. And I remember you, I think when at the time, I remember you saying like, this is going to be Angela's swan song. She's she's going to be out of the, Lupi's going to put her out of the UFC entirely, if not fighting entirely.
Yeah, she put her the fuck down. I was so shocked by that, and that's kind of why, even though she has that loss, whereas the other girls on the list, Karolina and Miranda, they went undefeated in 2022. I just think the level of competition that she did it in, and how highly regarded I thought of Lupi Godinez. I was seriously shocked that Angela Hill managed to do that to both of them. Credit to Karolina, but in truth, I mean, let me pull up her record. I just don't think Felice Herrig. Yeah. Yeah, like it was great to see her snap her 5-fight losing streak this year over Felice Herrig, but Felice Herrig was on like a 3 or 4 fight losing streak of her own, and was really, I mean, she hadn't fought in a few years. This was really a fight of like, okay, the loser's going home, like this. And also Silvana Gomez Juarez, who I thought was going to brain Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She also, she had success against her and got the win there. But now Silvana Gomez Juarez was dropped, and she was a little bit past her expiration date. Also, she's an older fighter at 38 to be fighting at strawweight. 38 is ancient, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think Angela Hill, I think she had the most impressive wins relative to how much trouble that she was having in 2021. Because in 2021, she went 1-3 against Ashley Yoder, Tisha Torres, Amanda Lemos, Virna Jan. Well, she went 1-2 because I keep forgetting that Virna Jandiroba fight was this year. So yeah, that is my most improved female fighter award. Hey listener, I'm just popping in for what might be like the first of many edits on this episode to let you know that this is where we ran into technical issues and my computer had stopped recording the rest of Brandon's audio. So we finished this episode on a different day. So if the audio quality is different, or if we say something that might be inconsistent with something we said earlier in the episode, well, now you know why. But enjoy the rest of our 2022 year-end awards. And we'll see if this works out. All right. Back again. Hopefully we're not riddled with ongoing technical difficulties. But we are going to get through these 2022 awards, fucking whether it kills us. So,
yeah,
most improved male fighter of 2022. And I'm going to name them off now. Our nominees are Drakkar Klose, Nikita Krylov, Ryan Spann, Tyson Pedro, and Drew Dober. I don't remember if you added anybody to that list the last time we recorded this.
I think I did, and we went like off on like a 25-minute rant, but let's not do that here.
So yeah, just some inside baseball. We have literally talked about all this already, so sorry listeners, You're getting the second version of this.
Yeah.
Our winner for most improved male fighter of the year. Fucking Brandon's frozen. Oh no, you're not. Never mind.
Okay.
I was like, it's not moving, but of course it's not. You weren't saying anything. Our winner for most improved male fighter of the year for 2022 is Drew Dober. Congratulations, Drew Dober. Well deserved. Yeah, the wins over his wins in 2022 over Bobby Green, Rafael Alves, and Terrence McKinney. Really, really, really big turnaround from his 2021 when he came up short against Brad Riddell and Islam Makhachev. Both tremendous fighters. The guys that you couldn't really blame them, and guys who in those fights I picked against Drew Dober. So but for the quality wins in Terrence McKinney and Bobby Green, especially in that fight with Bobby Green where he was really getting pieced up, for him to find a way to get in there and implement and impose his game plan and turn it around. Also, potentially that fight with Bobby Green, also a like an honorable mention for comeback of the year, for the way he turned it around. I think the tools that he's working with are so simple but so time tested and proven, which is just a fucking a chin that just won't give up, and a mean like power in his hands. Like he can get him so far. And I think like one of the things that we mentioned the first time we did this was not only how much of an improvement he's made from 2021 and those losses against Riddell and Makhachev, but also these 3 wins, plus how it sets him up for 2023 and potentially gets him into big name bouts with marquee fighters. Like a lot of people saw that fight and said like, I'm ready to see this guy fight a Justin Gaethje or a Michael Chandler. Those would be amazing fights. And then the big dick move of the year is he goes on to call out Jalen Turner, which is like another like little known like lightweight like big prospect, and a guy who is going to tower over him. Jalen Turner something like 6'1", 6'2", or something like that.
Jalen Turner's a big fucking guy, dude.
Yeah, so that's probably he probably called out like one of the
He
toughest
sells
matchups
spiders.
for
I don't
him.
know if we've. I don't know if we.
Yeah, he raises.
We've mentioned
trampolines and
that once or twice.
So, yeah, Bobby Green just out here calling for one of the toughest fights for him in the division.
You mean Drew Dober?
Yes, excuse me, Drew Dober.
Yep.
All out of sorts. Congratulations, Drew Dober. All right. Now, comeback of the year. This is we only have 3 nominees for this one. And I believe this one you did actually add one that was worth discussing last time, but I don't have it in my notes. So if I don't say it, add it
I'll
again.
just add it. I'll add it. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Our nominees for 2022 comeback of the year are Suma Dairji versus Matt Schnell, Saijakub Kakramanov versus Said Nurmagomedov,
Yep.
and Leon Rocky Edwards versus Kamaru the Nigerian Nightmare Usman.
And I added Alex Pereira against Stylebender.
That's right.
Comeback.
That's right. You did. See, I would have known that.
Yeah.
But I didn't capture your audio when I recorded that.
Yeah, all right.
So, and that's a great addition too, because yeah, you reminded me that he almost knocked out Pereira at the end of that first round. He had him like, if he had 5 more seconds to work, like it would be a completely different, title picture at middleweight right now. But that got that made it as a nominee. But our winner for 2022 comeback of the year, Suma Dairji versus Matt Schnell. What? On a list with Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman? I feel like I if I remember correctly, I was kind of defending this pick here. And did we have different picks for this one? Did you kind of come to a different finalist?
I took Pereira over Stylebender as the comeback, just because of the context of it, like being for a title fight. And then I think we really like also we went on like a tangent about how badass the corner work of Leon Edwards was throughout that entire fight, and like how perfect John Anik was saying like that's not the way he's built though, or that's not how, and then he just fucking kicked Usman in the head.
I think we were talking about that when we were mentioning it for another category, which I shouldn't say because I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, so this is a 2-way tie here. Surprisingly, Brandon is going with Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira, and I'm going with Suma Dairji versus Matt Schnell. I think both of our picks are kind of like upset picks for this category, because I know a lot of people automatically give this one to Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman. But I just thought that, upon rewatching that Matt Schnell versus Suma Dairji fight, like Matt Schnell was as close to, not literally, but as close to death as you can get inside the octagon without getting stopped. But somewhere deep inside, he found a way to keep the wires connected and didn't get colded. He just ate like 3 just devastating elbows in the stand-up, which all like literally paused him, and he still found his bearings, was able to take that fight to the ground and finish Suma Dairji there. So real iconic one I'd recommend anybody to go back and watch if you didn't see that fight in 2022. And I would say the exact same thing for Brandon's pick, but I think most people did end up watching that fight because it was definitely the more high-profile fight. So yeah, that the way that one broke down, Brandon went with the stakes, the circumstance, the story, the fact that it was a title fight, just had so much more. There was so much more skin in the game for both fighters. It meant a lot. And I went with just straight up. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it style, but I went with the optics pick, with the like, holy crap, this is as close to, a finished fight as I'd ever seen, and then that person ends up turning it around and getting the victory. So yeah, this is a 2-way tie here. So congratulations to Matt Schnell and Poatan Alex Pereira.
Just how fucked up Matt Schnell was in that fight. Like his eyes are rolled the fuck back.
Yeah. All right, let's take it up to fight of the year. This one's a highly contested one. It's tough when there's a category that there are so many good ones in there, yet there is still like a far and away contender that don't really give any of the other ones a shot, when any other year and like any of the other ones on the list would be like a surefire like number one. But let's get into this. Fight of the year. Our nominees are Yasmin Yarigui versus Yasmin Lucindo, Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa, Jiri Prochaska versus Glover Teixeira, Arman Sarukian versus Mateusz Gamrot, and Gilbert Dorino Burns versus Hamzat Chimaev. Do you want to read off the winner for our fight of the year of 2022?
I think it's pretty easy with Jiri Prochaska versus Glover Teixeira.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
That was a pretty easy one. I would say, I would definitely like bring up. I would say like Peter Yan, Sean O'Malley was a pretty good one. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler was a pretty good one. That was just left off this list.
Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler was the one that was like really, really close to making this list for me. I think if I ever consulted with you before we started recording, we'd probably definitely have added that one. So honorable mention to that fight for sure.
Yeah. David Onama, Nate Landwehr. That was a good one. But yeah, Jiri and Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze was a good fight too.
For me, that one was too one-way traffic. Like Kattar was just destroying.
Like that same as like Wonder Boy Holland.
Same, good point.
But just gorgeous. So, like the way when Calvin Kattar is on, he's it's so fun to watch a guy like him get down.
Yeah,
his style.
Both of those good examples of fights that are very rewatchable, but not because they were competitive at all.
And I think in the last one we made the joke of like, whenever it wasn't Arman and Gamrot, but it was Demiris Magulov and was it Kutiladze, where we said that would be like our fucking that verbal beam of Jeffrey Dahmer holding the knife, making our friends watch it. Like, dude, if you could edit that, if we could find that somehow, and like you could edit like the intros of fucking John Anik, and then the face when he's holding the knife, he's like, all right, and then like he pulls the knife up and like he's like watching it. And it's just like Demiris Magulov like shadow boxing. That'd be fucking sick.
We're gonna watch these Caucasian fighters, and we're gonna take some pictures.
Relax.
Yeah, but as for the winner of this category, though, Prochaska versus Glover Teixeira, it was definitely one where we knew before that fight. Even
that's one of the best fights I've seen in my life.
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of fights. What is your fight of your life? Like the fight you see in your head that is just like you saw live, you saw round for round, is like the fight, like Ephraim's top fight of his life.
That's a tough one because there's a lot that always stuck in my head. You know, when you have kind of like a default answer that's like, oh, this has been the answer for so long, and it's still the first one that comes to my head, but I know that it can't possibly really be my pick now. One of my favorite fights ever was Big Nog versus Randy Couture. I thought it was just like just a perfect old man fight. Sure. And obviously not like a barn burner. But both guys had their moments. Both guys left it all in the cage. Both guys were in the twilights of their career, legends, and it delivered just in so many aspects. And I know that like it's a weird pick because that's just like not such a fireworks fight, but it had the momentum shifts for me as someone who was really invested in that fight, really a big fan of Antonio Nogueira back then. So that's one of them. Obviously, Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk won. I saw that fight live, so that's always going to stay with me, and that's going to be one of a mainstay as far as like my favorite fights ever. Prochaska versus Glover. I mean, recency bias, but it's certainly there, man. Like that was one where you go into that fight thinking, okay, this is either going to go one of two ways. It's just such a style clash in my head, like going into that fight thinking like as soon as this fight goes to the ground, it's over for Jiri, because Glover's gonna tie him up and he's gonna choke him out. Or if it stays on the if it stays standing, and Jiri's just gonna need to touch Glover, and that age gap is too much now. And they both like just threw my expectations completely out the window. They got in those positions, and we saw the right guy dominating and the wrong guy dominating. That just kind of it flew in the face of so many predictions that we made. And all clear to the finish, which we discussed when we were talking about submission of the year. But even in the way that it ended was just such a mind fuck. And we didn't give that one the nod for submission of the year. But yeah, as far as like we could probably make up a whole nother category to kind of give that one its due, because it's just kind of like the most unlikely outcome of the year potentially.
And then for as much as you and I love Glover, and like as it was such a crazy lead up to, it's just like, we love Glover Teixeira. We've always loved Glover Teixeira. We will always love Glover. But Yuri's so badass. He's so fucking cool. And then if Glover would have lost to like Jan Blachowicz, I would have felt sad. I would have just felt like so sad. If Yuri would have lost to Jamel Hill, I would have felt like, what? That doesn't feel right. But the way that it worked out, just, you know what I mean? From all angles of it, like the build-up, the way everything went, and then the fact that Glover gets his shot back, it feels like right. It's everything with that. Everything about that fight just feels right. So
yeah, the waves from their first fight are still felt, this far out, and what it did to the division, and our anticipation for seeing that one ran back, in spite of, like you mentioned, everything that's happened, and the way that this title fight picture has played out. Jan Blachowicz and Ankh like going to a draw, and then them just like calling an audible immediately and saying, "All right, fucking Glover in Brazil."
That's how God is a Glover fan. Like God, even God loves Glover Teixeira, dude. That's how you know.
Yeah. How about you? Same question as far as like your mainstays, your favorite fights ever.
My favorite fights ever.
Aldo
Rory
Mendes
McDonald.
One I forgot to mention.
Rory McDonald, Lawler was that one was crazy as fuck, dude. Do you remember Michael Johnson, Dustin Poirier?
Yeah,
that was fucking sick as
Michael
fuck.
Johnson's been in so many good fights.
Michael Johnson's badass. Oh man,
Michael Johnson highlight reel, whether he's giving or receiving,
he is so cool.
Yeah,
dude, the Michael Johnson. Someone needs to do, if they haven't already, the Michael Johnson iceberg, like how they have those where it's like the top, because like he's got to have connections to fucking literally everybody. You know what I'm saying? So fucking Justin Gaethje and Michael Johnson had a fucking sick ass fucking fight too.
Yeah.
That was what, in like 2018, 2020, not 2016, because 2016 was the best year of everybody's life, but 2018. 2018. Dude, you tell me the summer 2016 wasn't just like everything was just perfect.
Yeah, there was definitely something in the air. I'm not sure what it was, but there was a magic.
But like in sports history, the one that like shaped me is like, I'm going to always watch fighting, was Julio Cesar Chavez and Meldrick Taylor. But I just can remember where I watched that. I watched that at my aunt's house. Like I watched it with my family, and he was getting his ass whooped, and like it was in the everyone loved Julio Cesar Chavez in my house. All my uncles, like my aunt had already started on the menudo because everybody was getting drunk. And then it was just quiet as hell. It was like, and then he just knocked him out in the last second. It was so cool. Oh, go back and watch that fight, dude. I saw that fight. I was watching it. Around Christmas, I was just watching like old boxing fights, and Meldrick Taylor is so badass. And Yeah, it was so sick. He came out in the last round. He was just like coasting, but his style, the way he did it, was just like I can't not stop. And he hit four times. For every one time he got hit, he hit the dude four times, and he's styling everybody. And then the way who like it was like a movie. That was fun. But I mean that's like trying to like actually Julio Cesar Chavez, but like from a UFC perspective, for me, it had to be Robbie Lawler and Rory McDonald.
Hey, if it was a boxing match too, like that's, I mean, that's.
I think it was
just
more just as a
relative.
kid, like having because I was like, well, I was like 6 or 7 years old, maybe I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, or even maybe yeah, I think I was like 6, and I was just like, dude, this is I'm going to be. I really like watching this. Like this is really cool.
Right on. Little history lesson for both of us. Well, for the listeners
Mhm.
on both
Yeah,
of us, and what kind of fights kind of stay in our heart. And they trust us. There's just the list. We could put
there's a
together
crazy
a
list.
hell of a
Yeah.
list, but to pull them all out, I had to just default to like the one that always comes to mind first,
What's
which.
crazy is Michael Johnson is on two, like two of the craziest fights I've ever seen. Like just watching beginning to end.
What were you? What? Which Michael Johnson fight were you asking about? Like what year it had taken place?
Oh, it
Was
was
it the
Michael Johnson
Gaethje?
Gaethje. It was
That was
2017, huh?
2017. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Because again, 2016 was the greatest year of everybody's life.
True
The
greatness.
last time we
Ever.
ever have a good year, that's the last time. Just remember that.
Let's move. Let's transition over to male and female fighter of the year. These are our final two categories. We got through them pretty fast. I thought it was going to
Yeah,
take
we
longer.
did.
I think the
We
only
did a
thing
good
that was
job.
holding us up is ongoing technical difficulties. We'll start with female fighter of the year. This is for fighter, the female fighter who just showed out the most. They reached the highest peak. They had the most winningest year, and they did it with style. They did it with grace. Our nominees for female fighter of the year are Valentina Bullet Shevchenko, Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, uh, Magnum Weili Zhang, and Larissa Pacheco. And our winner for 2022.
I can never not laugh when I see you say Larissa Pacheco with a straight fucking face,
Larissa
dude.
Pacheco. I had to give her. She had to get a nomination. Our winner for 2022 female fighter of the year goes to Magnum Weili Zhang. Zhang
Yeah.
Weili. I didn't say Zhang Weili. Congratulations, Zhang Weili. I'm sure that
Congratulations to
you
her.
were super stoked.
She's
to
somewhere
get-
right now. She's on her like 1,000th sit up right now. Just
Yeah.
fucking doosh, doosh, doosh.
She falls asleep. She probably falls asleep, suspended by her feet, like doing
Yeah.
like crunches or something like that.
Oh, I thought. Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, don't talk about bats and Chinese people.
No, never, not at all.
Yeah.
Of course not. Weili Zhang. This was a decision that comes from the fact that, for one, Shevchenko inactive. One fight and a very very close fight against Tyler Santos. But a lot of people actually thought Tyler Santos won. So, although she remains undefeated in 2022, she only had that one fight. She didn't, and no fault of her own. I'm sure she would have fought more than that. But just the way that the flyweight division is playing out for her, and the girls who are like kind of there but not stepping up and kind of like claiming their title shot, your Alexa Grassos, your Manon Fioros, that left Bullet without really too much of a foundation to stand on to get this award. Same thing with Amanda Nunes, not super busy. She got that title back from Juliana Pena, but she also dropped the title to Juliana Pena,
Yeah.
so that's a bit of an indictment on her. Larissa Pacheco, I had to kind of give her a nomination because she, you laugh. I had to give her a nomination because I think that's a big feather in her cap to beat Kayla Harrison. She positions
Yeah.
herself to be the new face of the female lightweight division over in PFL. They're going to run that one back, I'm sure, at some point. So that's tough. I know a lot of people leaped off the Kayla Harrison bandwagon, and her detractors were very, very loud when she dropped that fight. It was a very close fight. Hats off to Larissa Pacheco. I just think that it makes their further fights that much more interesting. So I think that's good for the PFL. That's good for both of them, because before, they were just going into that fight down two. Not too many fighters get that opportunity. But ultimately, Weili Zhang, with her knockout win over Joanna Jędrzejczyk back in June of 2022, catapulting her back into a title fight with the new champion, Carla Esparza, after Carla got that title off of Rose. I thought, obviously, she's going to get a big nod from me because I think knocking out Joanna Jędrzejczyk, even in 2022, was a big, big accomplishment, especially considering how their first fight went. It was fight of the year, a back and forth fight where Joanna took her into the deepest waters, and to see the improvement that she made coming into their rematch, getting the job done there, and then just absolutely stepping on Carla Esparza, just getting experimental with how she finishes her with that crucifix, rear naked choke, and getting that title back and establishing herself as the top of the strawweight division. I had to go to Weili Zhang, in my opinion.
I don't see another WMMA. Okay, so like honorable mention to Angela Lee out of ONE FC, RIP to Victoria Lee, her sister, who just recently passed. Angela's an amazing fighter, champ at a UFC, or ONE FC, sorry.
Yeah.
They don't have atom weight in UFC, right? So I don't even think you can compare her to anybody here. But I just to go back for Weili Zhang, or Zhang Weili, like I don't see a female fighter in the UFC at this time that is surging the way that she is, that is like going into the prime of her career. She's like, I think 2023, the beginning of 2024, we can expect some of the wildest shit out of her, because she's just only gotten better. And then when you look at fighters like Georges St. Pierre, some of the guys like who you would think would be like the best fighters of all time, they had to lose. She reminds me of Georges St. Pierre, where she lost and it made her better. Like it was some like John Jones or like Fedor, fighters like that, where they're part of the miss.
Okay, you're back. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, it just where she reminds me a lot of Georges St. Pierre. Just as like she did, like, she could have done the Ronda Rousey thing. It's like you lose and you're just fucked mentally. Like you're just not ever gonna get back to that place. I think she took that loss and took it as like, I have to learn and I have to get better, and that will never happen to me again. And I'm only mentioning because I read Georges St. Pierre's book, where like he took the losses that he had and the close calls that he had, and it didn't fuck with him. It was just like he took it as like personal, where I had to get better. And his like when he got kicked in the head by Carlos Condit, and instead of doing what he did against Matt Serra, where he just tried to outfight, he's like, this I can.
Fuck. Hold on, sorry. Just a sec. Okay, you're back.
Well, we just saw how she took the loss to Rose, and she just got, like, from every aspect, she got way more smooth. Her wrestling and grappling it just seemed like it just went light years. Like I took this shit she took that shit personally, dog. And I don't see any female fighter right now surging the way that she's surging into her prime. She's going into like what can seem. I think she is on the arc of becoming the greatest female fighter in WMMA history. I truly believe that. Just seeing how can you be a previous champ? How can you have gone through some of the fights that you've gone through, and then you're just getting better? Like I feel like we haven't even seen her best. Yeah. Just the only thing to me is, hopefully she gets game opponents and she gets like the big fights that can really cement her into becoming the greatest of all time.
That's a good point, because like you can have all of those things, and in a lot of people's eyes, if you don't if you don't make it to that like marquee pay-per-view seller kind of status, then that's still, I mean, it doesn't hit, take a hit to her legacy for me, but I mean, that's certainly going to be one way that's going to frame, her career moving forward. So she definitely has a little bit of an uphill challenge there, not speaking English, being, from China. I mean, from anywhere really, but the idea that she doesn't speak English. But yeah, no. So, but China. I can't say I disagree. I think that right now, like, she's kind of the perfect triangle fighter for me. When we talk about the whole fighter, athlete, martial artist breakdown, she's shown me in different ways that she's growing in all different directions. Yeah. We know she's a fighter. We saw that first fight with Joanna. We saw that she had no quit in her. She was ready to go another round if she had to. It was kill or be killed. We know that she's growing as a martial artist. We know that, like, when she loses, she wants to close up those holes. She wants to not be a liability anywhere. So if it means she needs to work on her wrestling, then she's going to call up Henry Cejudo, the double champ, Triple C, and get it done, and just fucking and look at those as things that can be fixed. And we the martial artist mindset is just always growing, always improving, always finding new ways to challenge yourself, and she's certainly doing that. And then the thing that's the least questionable is that athleticism. She is just on another level, whether it's enhanced or not. She has the work ethic of I don't know if anybody else can match her work ethic and how hard that she trains in WMMA. For sure, like, she's just going wild, and the different
fucking Tony Ferguson told her to chill. Like, Tony Ferguson was like, "Hey, take it easy."
Yeah,
he gave her a baseball. Wasn't that the craziest thing in, like, MMA history, where, like, Tony Ferguson goes, "Hey, you want a baseball?"
I love that. That's gnarly as shit. I love spiritual successors, and I love, like, the very not obvious spiritual successors. So now that you kind of like reminded me of that, because I knew, like, Tony Ferguson was her favorite fighter, and she was all stoked to get that baseball from him and stuff. But just the idea that, like, the potential, like, the soul of Tony Ferguson could live on in this Chinese strawweight. Yeah. No, that's hilarious. But yeah, congratulations to Weili Zhang, our 2022 female fighter of the year. And now on to the last one, and let's hope this audio doesn't. Let's hope it carries us through to this last one. Our male fighter of the year. What was that?
No, you read it off. Yeah.
Sure. Our male fighter of the year. The nominees are Alexander the Great Volkanovski, Islam Makhachev, and Alex Poatan Pereira. All very worthy. All have anyone can make an argument for any of these guys, honestly, and I wouldn't push too hard back on that and be like, no, you're out of your fucking mind, it has to be this person. But for both of the hosts of this show, it was unanimous. We both gave this to our winner, Alexander the Great Volkanovski, our 2022 male fighter of the year, just pitching a shutout in his two title defenses. Possibly, like, the greatest performances of his career, and not even in a way that it's like he had to improve on anything, but he did in flying cover. Like, a lot of people thought, like, hey, Max Holloway could still be that guy. A lot of people genuinely thought that, or believed that, Max Holloway won their two previous fights, and for one of them I wouldn't really argue so much. I thought Volkanovski won them both, but that's certainly a fair and valid argument. If somebody thought that Max won that first fight, hey, that's a perfectly, that's a valid pick. But he silenced any and all detractors in their rematch, because he just literally went out there and put on a flawless performance against Max Holloway. And it's a tough one, because and not a tough one as far as, like, us making this pick, but it's kind of crazy what that does for Holloway. And the fact that, like, now people are going to be looking at Holloway going into his next fight with question marks, like, did you really, like, are you really in a slump that bad, or did Volkanovski just make you look bad? Because he suddenly made you look like you are past your prime, like you might be getting washed. And I think that is just such a huge statement. And we saw something similar with Korean Zombie, with Chan Sung Jung, and I mean, that guy all but retired after the fight.
Yeah.
And we know that with time, he hasn't officially retired and he's probably still there. But that's another guy who his next fight I'm going to be looking at closely to really see, like, dude, is Volkanovski just that guy, or are you kind of like on the decline? Are you slipping? But for now, man, the things that he accomplished this year and the way that he positioned himself moving forward to go up there and challenge Islam Makhachev for the lightweight title in this year for 2023, upward and onward for Alexander Volkanovski. What do you think?
I think we mentioned it, that the thing that was so impressive is he kind of was a cage wrestling kind of wet carpet type fighter, and he's arguably one of the best strikers in the whole fucking game now. I mean, in the UFC for sure.
Strategically, yeah, without question.
Yeah, there's and then I think I'm trying to just kind of like reboot my take on it, but I feel like when you have someone who, because there's Muay Thai, he's a Tiger Muay Thai guy, so you have Rafael Fiziev, you have Islam Makhachev, you have not Islam, I'm sorry, you have Arman Sarukian, you have Kai Kara France, you have, I mean, the list is long of Tiger Muay Thai guys, and then you have like the Dagestani style cage wrestlers, where wrestling is wrestling, freestyle wrestling is amazing, it's a great base, but wrestling in the cage, using the cage as leverage, using the cage to pin someone up against it, he's really good at cage wrestling. He's very good at cage Muay Thai, which, if you have those two bases, you don't really necessarily have to be the best grappler or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner if you can just master cage wrestling and cage Muay Thai. And the way he's done it with the timing that he has, the explosiveness, you can really tell like his plyometric work, the work that he does is absolute. What are you fucking laughing at now?
I just wanted to see if I could make you laugh. Sorry.
No, you can just tell like you can tell like in his speed, and the thing that it wasn't necessarily his strength is the striking, and the speed and the fucking the counters, how he's always just right ahead, and his head movement, his shoulder movement, the way he's able to skid in the pocket. I've never seen anybody. I mean, I have, but just it's so nice to see someone in the pocket, bang, 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 out,
Yes.
bang, 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 out.
Yeah.
That is such a great thing to see, and he kind of has to do that for being such a diminutive guy, just the way he's built. So to see how he's turned that into quite possibly one of the, I mean, he beat the living shit out of Max Holloway. Like, there was just nothing Max Holloway could do, and Max Holloway, I mean, we're told by him and by our own eyes that Max Holloway is one of the best boxers in MMA.
Yeah.
And he just pieced Max Holloway the fuck up. So
yeah, and that claim by Max Holloway wasn't some out there like outrageous claim either. Like he literally did that while like no look slipping Calvin Kattar's punches and talking shit to the commentary team and everything. So it's like when Max says that and says, "I'm the best boxer in the UFC, baby, the freshman came to play," we're all looking at it like, yes, yes you are. Like,
yes, sir.
We're seeing this in real time.
Yes, Daddy, yes.
And then to put on that kind of performance against Max that almost looked like the reverse of that almost looked, he made Max look like Max made Kattar look in their fight. It's just, it's insane. You really get the sense that we're looking at someone who's like leveling up the entire game, like putting everybody else aware to like what can be done differently, not necessarily like how the fuck are we going to beat this guy, but like, oh, he's doing things that are going to make us all kind of go back into the gym and be like, can we do that? Because I mean, the MMA is a really, like, you can see the trends in MMA and you can see the meta change when somebody does something new, and you kind of see everybody like starting to adopt that. We've seen the calf kicks, the front kick, a lot of stuff, and the way, I mean, just back in the day when you'd see a wrestler like get a takedown or something, And you would see, I remember when I first started watching back in like 2006, 2007, a wrestler would manage to get a takedown in the middle of the cage, and they would actually like take their opponent over to the cage as if that
Yeah.
was like strategically advantageous. And now we know if you're the guy on bottom and you want to get up, you want to be on the cage. I think,
Yeah.
I believe it might have been for Forrest Griffin versus Rampage, their fight, the title fight. I kind of
Yeah.
always stuck in my head. I think there's one scenario where Jackson gets him down. I don't remember how the fight got to the ground, but he does that. He kind of like scoots Forrest
Yeah.
over to the cage as a way to like kind of like get leverage or keep him there.
Well, uh, Habib kind of did that too, though. But it was like because he had one of your hands trapped behind you,
Mm-hmm.
and like your shoulder was like buried into the cage, and then so
Yeah.
like your head was like just right. But he used the cage to like prop your head up, so like you couldn't move your head, so he could just punch you in the fucking head. But
Which makes
yeah,
sense though, because like you mentioned though, like so much of the current like wrestling meta, like for very few guys are getting takedowns out in the open now. Like yeah,
yeah,
everybody's putting their opponent on the cage to complete the takedown, and I
yeah,
mean it's a give and take because that's also where the opponent wants to be to get back up. But yeah, now like you mentioned like the distance management and all of that. Like if you don't have of Alexander Volkanovski, he does make up for what he lacks in wrestling pedigree. Yeah, he
yeah,
really makes up for in timing, and it just kind of goes to show. Like you mentioned, you compared Zhang Weili to GSP, and I almost kind of
yes.
feel like you can also still draw some
Oh yeah,
some comparisons
everybody
there.
goes back.
Every
Anybody who's at the top right now, you're gonna. I think they all kind of go
true,
to GSP,
good point.
and I
Like
think
it shouldn't be
if
that outlandish to compare the greats
yeah,
now to yeah.
because if you ask, because he was like you said, he bridged the gap between everything because he was a karate master, and then he got really good at in Muay Thai. He got into the Danaher style of grappling, and then just became the best wrestler.
Hmm.
And
Out
it was
wrestling
just
guys who had no
yeah,
business out wrestling, but his timing was just so
yeah,
picture perfect. He knew exactly when to duck under your shot and just
yeah.
make up for
So
that.
so I think he's the one. I think he was the change, like the degree of separation, because that was like Abdul or Habib's dad's favorite fighter, where like you can't. I guarantee you, like Team Habib is like all about what GSP was doing back in the day. So and then that's obviously the most successful fight style right now, anyway. So
Yeah. A thing about GSP is interesting too, and I mentioned the whole triangle fighter thing, the fighter,
yeah,
martial artist, athlete, and how I think when you're the closer you can get to having a perfect mix of all of those, like the higher, like the higher your ceiling is, in my opinion. And I think what's something that's kind of showing about the evolution, like GSP, I would say if any in any of those categories he was a little bit weaker than the others, would probably be in the fighter category
yeah,
because he was a fighter when he needed to be, but he was also always very open about the fact that he did not like fighting. Like
yeah,
he went in there, he did his job in the cage, but he didn't like fight week. He didn't like the build up. He didn't like making that
yeah.
walk. He was nervous the whole time. Every time they try to get him out of retirement towards the end, he would say that he's like, yeah, it would be a good opportunity. It would be a super fight. I'd love to cement my legacy. The pay would be nice, but I don't
The
know if
way
I really
Dana
want to
White
go through
fucking
all.
sandbagged him,
Uh,
criminal.
oh yeah.
How it all comes out now. It's all like how because at the time everyone was like GSP's a bitch. Like what the fuck, dude? Just fight. Dana's right, and now it's like no, Dana's a gorilla pimp cocksucker, like piece of shit.
Love the
Don't
callback.
yeah, because just and then to go back to your point, like it is recent. I just was listening to George St. Pierre's book, and the reason why he hated fighting was he when as a baby he was born late and he had like psoriasis, he had issues speaking, he had really bad he had like really bad just allergies.
Mm,
He was just goofy, and he got bullied. He
he
got
had
bullied a
bullies.
lot,
Yeah.
and he just wanted friends so bad. And then he got so good at fighting. One of his bullies like approached him, and he like beat the fuck out of the kid. And then he said, like, and then everybody wanted to talk to me and everybody wanted to be my friend. And he's like, I didn't like that because it's like, dude, just because I can beat your ass, you think I'm cool? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like to, I'm into this. I like to do this as a kid. Like, I want to have fun. Like, I just don't want you to be cool with me because I can beat your ass. And I think like that always stuck with him in his head. Like, fighting's stupid, dude. Just because I'm good at it, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that was his big thing. Was like that's why I just didn't like fighting because I didn't like the fact that the only reason people respected me is because I'm a fighter. It's just I'm a person. Like I'm a whole ass person, dude. So
Yeah, you really always got the sense that the closer that you can get it to just being just straight, just competition, just sport,
yeah,
is the best version of GSP that you can get. Where
yeah,
it's like you just get the sense that we're just athletes. We're going out here, we're coming out
hmm
here to compete in our sport, and there's no bad blood. At the end of the day, we shake each other's hands and we walk away. Like you could tell that that's what GSP always wanted it to be.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, it certainly didn't. It didn't derail him when he fought guys who pushed up against that and tried to just throw a whole wrench in that, like the Bispings and your Nick Diaz's and stuff. The guys who said, "Now fuck you," and basically
yeah,
made it like, "No, this is the fight game, and we're gonna sell this fight."
yeah,
And yeah, like not even to make it sound like GSP was a head case or anything like that, but I would say because I think if you can swallow all of that and say, "All right, it's time to be a fighter," and ignore it and perform just the same and
yeah,
still be that perfect triangle fighter, I think that's almost even more powerful. Like that almost kind of demonstrates how powerful his mind is that he has
yeah,
that bit of a hurdle. I mean, no, there's plenty of other fighters fighting with bigger hurdles, but he has that and he's able to just compartmentalize it and go in there and just be the guy. Like, yeah.
yeah. And in his book,
I
he
could tell the
was
listeners right now in the original time we
yeah.
recorded this, we didn't start ball washing GSP out of nowhere, but
No, but it's just crazy. Well, you're talking about male fighter of the year, and or we're talking about Young Ray Lee,
mhm,
like the way
yeah.
they like you kind of had to lose to get to where you are, and GSP was perfect, but he was so close to being in Pride.
Oh, really?
Uh, yeah, and he said it was just too far to travel, and it would have been like it would have been too much of a leap as far as expenditure wise for him to go like because if he would have went to Pride and lost and like not earn that next fight or he would have been like shit out of luck and
Mm,
like oh so he's like well it's the same hemisphere the UFC is kind of the only name right now so I'll stay here and then they allowed him to fight to bounce back because he fought in the UFC and then went back to Canada and was going back and forth so
George St.
he,
Pierre was such
yeah
an innovator that the idea of GSP with knees to the head of a grounded opponent and soccer kicks and all of that,
it
like
would have been over
he would have done some really fucked up stuff, some really
yeah
violent shit. That I mean, not
yeah
that we didn't see anybody else doing this, but it I mean, we talk about like, oh, in Pride that would have been an interesting fight, but that's a very
yeah
really interesting one. It's like what how does GSP mold his fight style under that rule set? That's super fascinating to me. I'll have to check out that book. Does he narrate it himself?
No, I
Oh,
wish. I in the version I think he's working on that, but
okay.
and then he does do like where there's a narrator and then he does like a oh hey guys just to check in with you on this portion of the book. Like he kind of like comes in and like talks about it, but or like he kind of like expands on it, but no, it's a really good book, man. It tripped me out just because like I thought I knew everything about him,
Mhm.
but it's like you're always kind of getting it funneled through, and then because it's just not as it's and then too like those man he could have been in Pride, his injuries,
Mhm.
uh, like his ACL when he blew out his ACL, like at the time when he had that, that was like you're done. There's like only
Mm.
one other guy that had really it was Adrian Peterson was a running back who had that injury and came back to be like the same superhuman person. Now guys get it all the time, and it's
Yeah,
just like,
oh man, thank you for bringing that up. Hadn't really thought about that because I do remember now that you mention it. Back when I first started watching, like dudes were tearing their ACLs and stuff like that, but there was always like Joe Rogan was always saying, but there's a lot that they can do for that now. It's not, it's not as much, it doesn't mean the end of your career. Like they were making a lot of advances, and there was still a big question mark. Like, well, fuck, he had this, and it's still new. But you're right, yeah. And I hadn't really noticed that, but like now the change is like it's not even a thing. I mean, you're gonna be out, you're gonna be on the shelf for a bit, but there's no expectation that it's like, oh, we never know if you're gonna be the same at all. Or no,
it was like the darkest part of his life. It was like the darkest part of his life. It was the ACL tear. And then that a lot of people just, like he said, it was like the same thing about him being a kid. It's like, no one's respecting me because I'm not fighting. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, now I'm not no one's friend anymore. I'm the same guy. Like, what the fuck, dude? Just because I can't fight because my fucking knee. And like the whole thing with Nick Diaz and how fucking like weird Nick Diaz was about that, and how like, and then he got hurt, and then like him, like I guess he watched Carlos Condit win, and then like the fight with Johnny Hendricks, and then the way Dana treated him after that was like Dana came out and said, hey, GSP just went to the hospital. You had to go. They're like, who do you think won? Well, the guy they said won's in the fucking hospital right now, and the guy who they said didn't win, he said he was just gonna jump in the shower and take 2 minutes to do it. So who do you think won? And then GSP came out and was like, I didn't go to the hospital. What are you talking about, dude? Like, and then he's like, this guy's on steroids, on like copious amounts of steroids, dude. And they came out like, yeah, he was. But then you go back and watch that fight.
You really got the sense that like Dana White had George St. Pierre tied like in a broom closet somewhere, and I was like, no, you're not retiring. And he went out to the media. He's like, no, he just needs to talk to his people, and he doesn't want to make a statement right now. But no, he's not going anywhere. It's like, dude, like that was back when Dana would really try and strong arm some shit and hold court and just be like, and also like the post-fight press conferences were handled way differently and stuff, and they had them all go and sit out there at the same time. And that was
because there wasn't like Twitter or anything where like, because you can say something now and then someone on Twitter could be like, no, here's a link to what you said last time, stupid ass. Like you're like, so now it's like real-time fact checkers.
I mean, Twitter was a thing already at that point, but there wasn't like MMA Twitter yet. Like they didn't know how to.
UFC Twitter goes hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I left you in charge of the Twitter page.
Yeah. Like, well, and I'm like, it's a trip because like I tried to like live stream the last UFC on Twitter, and it gets pretty crazy because you can get like people get crazy in those comment sections, or like
is there people who would just be like, fuck, I need to see the fight, let's see if I could find someone streaming it on Twitter? Is like that the kind of scenario we're talking about?
No, I'm talking about like comments and like people retweeting and like fighter live reactions. It gets pretty crazy. Like the arguments are you can, and your shit can go out because like all it takes is like someone needs to like retweet something, and then it just goes crazy. So
all right, well, now that we've wrapped up, and I'm glad we went down that memory lane a bit with George St. Pierre. I'm gonna have to definitely check out that book. I can use some new reading material.
He's amazing, man. Yeah. I listened to it. I didn't read it. I listened to it. I go running and I like listening to it. He's a cool guy.
That's mostly how I consume books also. Well, the listening part, not so much the running part. But before we wrap up, so we have to also mention, this isn't a category, there's no voting here. 2022 retired fighters acknowledgments.
Carlos Condit.
Yes, we got to name them off. We have to acknowledge them. These are the fighters who didn't make it to 2023. I make it sound like they died. And who won't be seen in action inside MMA cage ever again. And we all know like the stereotype about mixed martial arts retirements, that they don't last long.
Rumble Johnson, won't be seeing him.
Yeah, dude, that's people who die. I'm not prepared to eulogize everybody who died. Thank you for mentioning Rumble Johnson, R.I.P. Rumble. 2022 retired fighters: Jose Aldo,
sad, fighting Kovalev, wild boxing.
Yes. Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
And the USADA pool though.
TJ Dillashaw.
Fuck him.
Yeah, I have a little comment for all of them. I'm going to be having the Boys to Men song playing in the background for this section too, by the
so
way.
We've come
to the end. Yeah. Luke Rockhold.
Okay.
No comment. Like what?
No,
Okay.
you know what I saw the other day was that Millionaire Matchmaker
Uh-huh.
when he's like, "Do you spit or swallow, bitch?" Like, did you send me that when he was
Yes,
like on
I
the
did.
boat with that chick?
I didn't know about that
Piece
till that
of
day I sent
shit.
it to you. That was so ruthless, man. Like
Fuck that guy.
there's a camera on you right now that you know about, and you said that.
Yeah.
It wasn't hidden, guy.
Yeah.
Damir Ismagulov. It was
Very
an
sad.
unexpected one.
He'll be back.
Frankie, the answer, Edgar. Everybody,
Sorry, his kids had to see that.
yeah, Mike and I gave a pretty good accounting or a recounting of
That was
Frankie
a great,
Edgar's UFC
yeah.
career.
That was
so-
one of the better. I think yours and my, which totally got wasted on the fact that they went to fucking Denver or to fight.
Oh, with Aldo and Marab, yeah.
Yeah, because like our Aldo Marab breakdown is like the best. Like that would be like if I had to show someone the Dahmer style with the knife, that would be like no, like I know what I'm talking about.
That's our work, and yeah, it's true. That's up there for sure of the like highlights or things that I would point someone to for to let them know what we're all about.
I think it's just because how much we like really love that guy.
Yeah, no, for sure. Donald Cerrone, Cowboy. Zabit Magomed Sharipov.
He's coming back. He's gonna come
Uriah
back.
Hall.
Whatever.
Nina Nunes
Oh man,
and Roxanne
Trooper.
Modafferi.
You know, okay.
Thank you for all of the highlights. Thank you
Yeah.
for all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've shed in the cage. To all of you, we hope that you find happiness in retirement and that you have a worry-free, hopefully financially like bright retirement for all the years that you've given inside of the UFC. Before you start talking again, hold up because I got to refresh you. Because no, but yeah, your sound froze again. Okay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say hopefully like this time next year we're talking about Dominic Reyes. Like,
I think
please retire, dude.
if I'm gonna make a 2022 prediction about 2023 prediction about Dominic Reyes specifically,
Yeah.
I think that this is the last year that he is a UFC contracted fighter.
Do you think
at the very
Nunes is the
least.
last?
Yeah. Since I kind of hinted at that earlier, I'll also predict that I think Nunes hangs him up this
There's
year.
just no one for her to fight, right?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing. I think like I was kind of shitting on the Ketlin Vieira and Rocky Pennington fight earlier, and just so you know, your sound froze again. But I'll keep going just to kind of like make my point. And the way I see it is like, are either of those girls worth the training camp and worth like the work that it's going to take to put in? And I think like I don't know if that's gonna inspire her, and really all that's left for her is if she could somehow like get Valentina Shevchenko to make that trilogy happen, because everyone would still pay for it. And I think that as far as like getting the return on her investment, which is her health and her time and putting in the grueling work in a training camp, like that's all there is. So I think that this would be probably the year that she might potentially hang him up. And then just a sec before you okay, go ahead if you had anything to add to that.
No, just Dominic Reyes. Hopefully we're talking about him. Who else? Sean Strickland, hopefully he retires. Who do you think? I think because we should probably maybe in the next couple of pods that we do the like who's the champ, who's still the champ, but like 2023, like who do you think will be the male fighter of the year in 2023?
That's a tough one because just like pretty early on in the year, depending on how things go, like it could just very easily be Volkanovski again if he manages
Again,
to beat Islam Makhachev
if he beats
or vice
Islam, it's
versa.
wow. Okay,
Yeah,
this guy's John Jones level. Who are we even talking about?
like he can beat Islam Makhachev and then go on to lose a razor thin split decision to somebody who like people would probably think like he should have won that. And
Tapuria or someone
yeah,
like that.
yeah, and I could see us still potentially or considering him for fighter of the year, even if he goes 1-1, as long as one of those wins is over Islam. Because right now, like we're kind of forecasting Islam to potentially be a long reigning champion.
Yeah,
And that's something, given the landscape of the lightweight division, like to predict that somebody's going to be holding that title for a long time, we have to really think highly of him.
yeah,
Well, I did have that planned for our will they won't be like by the end of 2023 section,
yeah,
but given the way our sound my system keeps dropping your sound in and out, I don't
yeah.
know if you want to try and tackle it right now and just see how far we get and then pick it back up next time, or do you want to just see if
I
I can
wanted to see,
figure out
yeah.
this?
Well, not so much that from a production point of it, but just to see how, like, um, maybe like right before the next pay per view, we should do that
Okay,
because that's when the next when like Glover Jamal Hill. I think we should
good call.
probably
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, because we would have to make these predictions before we get into any title fights, otherwise
Yeah,
it becomes moot. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so we'll table that for sure. Anyways, the predictions about this coming year. We could, before we wrap up really quick, we could
yeah.
recap our predictions from the previous year about 2022 though,
Sure.
because I have those. I don't know if you can hear that. My smart speaker in my restroom is like talking to me right now.
In
Okay.
your restroom?
Yeah, I have a little Google smart speaker in there to play music while I'm in the shower and stuff.
Oh, cool.
These were our predictions. I went back and I listened to our first episode that we recorded in January of 2022, and we predicted who we thought would still be the champion by the end of the year and who we thought we would drop the strap. So I'm going to go through by division. For heavyweight, the champion was Francis Ngannou. The champion is still Francis Ngannou. You predicted that he would still be champ by the end of the year. I predicted that he would not, so you got that one. So you got 1 point for Brandon. I
Yeah.
thought Cyril Gane was gonna take the strap in their fight, but that didn't happen. And that was the only fight that Ngannou had. So once he won that one, we knew he was going into surgery. So you'd pretty much wrap that point up. Like there was no way it was gonna come to fruition for me. Light heavyweight. Glover was the champion at the time, and we both predicted that he would not be the champion by the end of 2022. So we were both correct there. Middleweight. Israel Adesanya was the sitting champion at the time, or the long reigning champion at that point. You and I both predicted that yes, he would still be the champion by the end of 2022. We were both wrong. He dropped it at the end of the year. So far, we are. You're beating me by one.
Okay.
Welterweight, Kamaru Usman. We both predicted that he would be champion by the end of the year. As we both know, he is not. Lightweight,
2-1.
Oliveira. We both predicted that he would not be the champion by the end of the year. We were both right. He dropped it to Islam Makhachev in their fight. This one, featherweight. I don't know what happened or if we were stoned or just not paying attention, but we got into predicting featherweight and then we got sidetracked and we just actually didn't.
We
make
would
a
have both
prediction.
said Volk,
We would
no
have.
matter what.
I think we would have both said yeah, but we just didn't.
Yeah.
So we literally didn't make a prediction for that one.
Probably stoned, or like for sure we were stoned as fuck.
Probably for sure. And I went back and I rewound it and listened to it. And I was like, no, I'm probably missing something. We had to have said it somewhere, but nope, neither of us did. I just moved us along to the next division.
That was when we were doing them. Like we went from the Saturday night right after to the Sunday morning to Monday night.
And we were on camera.
Yeah, and then now we do it till like on Wednesdays.
Oh shit! That also reminds me too. I have to drop this episode before the card this weekend. So okay, bantamweight. Aljamain Sterling. We both predicted that he would not be the champion by the end of the year. We were both wrong on that one. Flyweight. We both. Moreno was the champion at the time, and we both predicted that he would still be the champion, and he's the interim champion, but not the flyweight
he
champion.
Is in my heart, he is the champ.
Mm-hmm. Champion of my heart. Women's divisions, featherweight, Amanda Nunes. We both predicted yes. I mean, I could speed through these. Bantamweight, Pena. We both predicted that no. We were both right on both of those. These were the easiest picks of the whole thing. Same with flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko. We both said yes, that she would still be champion by the end of 2022, and we were both right. And the last one, strawweight, Rose Namajunas was the champion at the time. You predicted that yes, she would still be the champion. You said she was a good person. You were wrong about that. I predicted that she would not be the champion. And yeah, she dropped the strap to Carla Esparza.
I think she's a good person.
She's a flawed person, but there's a good person in there somewhere.
Damn, dude.
We went and we tied with our picks. We ended up going 6-6 for our predictions. So nobody won. It was a bloody tie, kissing cousins.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Fucking Rose.
So by the next episode, we will go through and we will do this again. For 2023, we will go through everybody who's holding the strap at every division right now and make our best educated guesses, our predictions as to whether or not they'll still be at the top of the mountain by the end of the year. And if we want to get into it a little bit, we'll try and maybe guess or make some predictions about who we think will be the champion if we're predicting that they won't be the champion anymore. So all that and more on this next episode of The Fight Plug. Thanks again for joining me, Brandon. Everybody, take care. Have a good night. Oh, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, all that stuff.